She spent the morning tracing the new tattoo on my arm. I spent the morning love struck in a pair of Nova Scotian eyes. She said, "You know that poem was the only reason I gave you a chance." I looked down at her nail on the ink, circle and a line. Looking back, I suppose it was truly everything. Spent the next 4 years chasing that holy morning in a hotel room. Couldn't even come close. It was like chasing a dragon. It's like trying to convince myself that I was something more than just a sexual lookup table. I ended up waking up so many moons later, a living nightmare, staring back at its brother. So little ink, yet so much power. I couldn't control the second, let alone the time spent sending myself through portals of the past. But now, the third will be something special, something sacred, something royal, symbol of strength, the strength just to stay home, the symbol of the unhindered heart, the last trick up my sleeve.
The program you are about to hear is fiction, science fiction. We make no guarantees, however, how long it will remain fiction, fiction, fiction.
Salacious salutations, Cognonauts, and welcome to another episode of ExoFathom, where we dare to explore the outer reaches of thought. I will be your host tonight. I'm Mike, and as always, I'm joined with my two lovely co-hosts, Nick and Ayla. How y'all doing?
Hey, happy Friday.
Hey, man, happy Friday. Ayla, how you doing?
Oh, feeling lovely and happy Friday.
I assumed by happy when Nick said happy Friday, man, he was doing great and fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah, no, I hear that. It's like a weird mental state, right? Oh, I am happy Friday.
Yeah, it's always a good day when Friday comes around, right? A
Mhm.
weekend. Unless you're in customer
Just on
service,
Fridays.
then I feel for you. But whenever your Friday is, it's always a happy Friday.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, tonight I want to talk about tattoos. So, I mean, we've known each other for
Pam?
no, the little guy tattoo. The little guy from what show was that? What show is he on?
Pleasure Island.
Yes.
Mhm.
So the whole episode is dedicated to him, and we're gonna run down every episode that he was in, every line that he.
Wait, what are you? Is this like a cable thing?
A very old show thing, I guess. I don't know if it was on. I don't know if they had cable back then, right? That was like before they put advertisements in cable. Like, that's why you paid for it, and nothing was like censored and stuff. Anyways, going down memory lane on that one. We've known each other now for how long? Like 16 years, 17 years.
Too long. No, I'm just kidding.
Too long, yeah. Jesus
It's been a
Christ.
while.
Wow, if you didn't want to be friends, you could have just unfriended me on Facebook, and I would have communicated the message just fine. Thank you so much. So I know y'all have, if you have tattoos or not, but do you have tattoos? Do you like them? And do you think there's any significance behind them?
Mhm.
Yeah, well, I do have tattoos, but I've recently turned on them, and if I could give myself advice, go back in time, I would just say, don't do it.
Wow.
Yeah, because I have a good amount, but I don't have anything against them in the least bit, obviously, but I do think that there's always a level of you just don't know what you're going to be in the future, and I think a lot of people think that they know how they're going to be in the future, and the great thing about life is that you change your outlook on things. So sometimes you can change your outlook to, be critical of the things that you did when you were younger. And that's probably where I am now. I don't necessarily regret it, but I would say that if I could do it over again, I wouldn't do it.
Do you think you'll ever change back in the future?
I'm waiting until the technology gets cheap enough, and I'll get them all lased off.
No, I mean like if you got them all lased off, do you think there'd be a point in the future where you're like, man, I should have kept at least half of that, right?
Yeah, they just get a new set and laze those off, and then
Oh, there it is.
yeah.
The new skin. There it
Yes.
is.
Yes.
New skin.
Ayla, what about you?
Yeah, I have tattoos and I am a fan of them and I want more. I haven't gotten to next state and I don't think I ever will regret them. You know, I've been doing some knee rehabilitation in the pool and I am I'm taking the senior classes because that's all I can do. And I've made friends with a couple of older ladies that have tattoos and they look fantastic. I just love it. There's so much more richness to them when they're walking around. Not to say that you need tattoos, like there's richness without it, but I just think they're cool. I like them.
Yeah.
I will add the caveat that I have been tattooed for nearly 20 years now, so that might be why I'm feeling fatigue.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, are you like so you're not considering any new ones?
No.
Yeah, and then Ayla wants more. I'm kind of in the same camp with Ayla. I only have 2 tattoos. I love them both. But I've never been the type just like I enjoy the process and the ritual of it too. But I've never been the type just to go get them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I wonder too if were you the type that just went and got them, Nick? Is that something that plays into it?
Not necessarily. I think I only did that once, just for the sake of doing it. But I definitely did, try to use them as sort of like markers in my life, to try to put as much significance behind them as I would like. The thing is though, is like there's a difference. I think most of my tattoos are unfortunately visible if I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt. If I could do it over again and they said you still have to get tattooed, I just make sure that I tattooed them above the t-shirt line. That's it. Because it's to me it's just like I don't like being so flashy with them. And that was a younger man's persona and I'm really not that person anymore. So
yeah, I understand that. But I think that, like since the 50s, I think we've hit this tattoo renaissance thing where they're one becoming more acceptable and two the artists are really earning their salt with the idea that it is actual like kind of like now artsy, like very much the word art is now in there and they are pretty good. But yeah, I wonder though if it's just not so much if it's like that social pressure that gets you to be like I have to be professional, I have to look a certain way. So I should keep them above this line, because I have them in fairly visible places too.
Yeah, no, it's not social pressure for me. It's I've told Ayla this before. It is a survival mechanism. If we're headed into the AI apocalypse, then I don't want any sort of visible markers on my body that would help me be identified.
Oh man,
having tattoos is a very easy way to identify somebody.
Yeah. But what more human is it than to have a tattoo? How you will be loved by your fellow anti-AI folks who want to wage war against it, Yeah, no. I have and it doesn't help for me. I have very unique tattoos where like if you see that thing, there's maybe I'd give it like a 1 in 10,000 to 1,000,000 chance that some other person has that tattoo at that same location,
Right.
But I don't know, I think that's as we kind of dive further in this conversation, you see that sort of in a weird way, the purpose is to have some indigenous culture. A lot of indigenous cultures around the world would consider them marks of maturity. So like they're supposed to be unique. They're supposed to like that dignifies you as a certain thing. In Western culture, where we get a little bit more like Leviticus about it, where like you're not supposed to mark your skin. That looks really bad. The ties to criminality and all that stuff. But yeah, I think it's more the culture than anything, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, like it's certainly the culture for the wider scale outlook on tattoos. I mean, I remember working at Starbucks. I did that for about 10 years. And of course, when I left, they just allowed people to have tattoos, where I had to wear long sleeves every day and make sure that nothing was showing ever. So yeah, the culture changes, but I don't necessarily, I think that I have just changed. I'm not necessarily making a moral statement about tattoos at all. I think that I have just personally changed. And that's something that I'm starting to sort of explore more in my head as to why that is.
Yeah, and that's very natural too, that change of things that we once liked or that were once interesting that are now getting kind of boring and kind of played out. But you still go through those like death throes of things, I feel like, right? Until then you change. And then who knows, like in 20 years you'll change again. And
maybe, who knows? That's the interesting part of life. I mean, I think that there's a lot of people who think that they'll just stay the same, but I think that you should hope that you don't.
Yeah.
In some way or another. I think that you should always hope that you're different in 10 years than you are right now.
This is it's sort of funny. There's only one constant in this whole universe. The only constant is change.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's changing all the time, and there are some it's just a natural phenomenon. People grow. They grow for growth's sake within the environment that they're allowed to grow in, and that facilitates the change within individuals. But I think like with tattoos, it's kind of, it's still even like the embarrassing ones, it's still interesting to have that snapshot in life.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who can really rock the tattoo in many ways. There are a lot of people who can think that, though, like it's almost like you have to be, and maybe this touches back at the culture thing too, is that you almost have to be at the peak of your profession in order to afford yourself like wild tattoos. I'm thinking of that, like things like face tattoos. They're still very stigmatized by our culture anyways. And so I think that usually the only people who get face tattoos are people who are committed to the field that they're in already and know they'll never change. And I think that in that in of itself might be, all right, good for you, but I don't know if I'll make the same choice.
Yeah, and there's some people who have face tattoos that wish they never got them, right?
Yeah.
They got them out of an air of rebelliousness, and that's like, oh, like you were saying, some amount of years later, they don't want them anymore. But it is very culturally specific, because you take something like the Maori culture where the face is like a very sacred place, and same thing with the neck and things like that. So the tattoos you get there really signify a certain meaning. Whereas our culture, it's like, why the hell did you do that to your face? What's happening there? I don't even know what that stuff means. Even in like more criminal cultures, the prison culture, the face can be a very sacred place to get a tattoo to signify a huge meaning, Yeah,
definitely.
Ayla, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, I mean, I like the perspectives. I think it's interesting to think about a person navigating the decision to get a tattoo against the backdrop of different societies and cultures and times and levels of profession, things like that. And yeah, I kind of see it a couple of ways, because on the one hand, yes, they can be stigmatized. But then I think about like my sphere of influence, the people I want in my life. And if they would be turned off by something like a tattoo or cast judgment because of a tattoo without first clarifying or, like getting curious about it, I don't really know that person's for me, I mean, live and let live, obviously, no judgment on my end, but I do think that in social dynamics, it can add as like a litmus test kind of for whatever kind of purpose.
Do you think
on
that
both sides.
Do you think that there's a paradox there, though? Because the tattoo, I mean, like I get what you mean, and that nobody should really be judged by just the surface level glance or whatever. But tattoos are almost kind of an advertisement to judge the person on a surface level glance.
Well, so I'm glad you asked that, because yes, I think it can go both ways. I can be judging somebody for judging my tattoo, And that's a judgment on my end, but also too, like, so one of the tattoos I have been wanting to get is just a small, cute outline of the planet Saturn. And I have very personal reasons for that, and they have mostly to do with my interest in space. But as Nick pointed out, there's the concept of Saturn can be seen as like satanic a little bit, you know. And so I think while I could have pause on that, I know what it's about for me, and I will be getting it in a place where I can cover it. So I think but that's interesting that you think about that too, you know, when you're deciding to get a tattoo. Sometimes you don't care, but other times, I guess when it's in a more visible spot, then you have to start thinking like, oh, how is this going to land? How, you know.
But isn't that too like part of almost everything that we do at, like, we have a surface level where we try to pull in a judgment, like from the clothes we buy. I mean, I'm wearing an LA Kings hat, right? Like, look, the thing on my mind right now is hockey, obviously, because I'm wearing an LA Kings hat. And like, how does even this like push judgment back and forth, right? The hoodie is not anything special. It's from Walmart. It's a Walmart $9.99 hoodie. Love Walmart. So then how does that play off in judgment with others? And like, what I love about tattoos is that it pulls out that judgment, right? Even like everything, like this cross. I showed this cross to a friend who's pretty devout Christian. Don't know what sect of Christianity, don't ask me. But she kind of got frustrated that the serpent, it's a cross with Archangel Michael casting out the devil. But she got very upset that the serpent was on the cross and felt like those two things should never touch. But you draw in this interesting, you get to learn more about the person. And tattoos are one of these mechanisms. I feel like when you pull out those surface level judgments, you at least have a conversation.
That's true, because I actually want that tattoo so that when people see it, I'll be like, have you ever seen Saturn through a telescope with your naked eyeball? Because I have, and it was amazing. It changed everything. Everybody should do it. Like a walking PSA.
Yeah, you know, and like I have tattoos in visual places, and the thing though is that I've always been a kid in a hoodie. Like, I've worn hoodies since probably before I was born, just in the womb with a little hoodie on. So like I've always been able to like hide them if need be, but it's never crossed my mind to hide them. I never like purposely wear a hoodie to hide them. And I don't know, I guess that judgment thing is something that has maybe just by way of reading way too many books, but it's something that's never bothered me. And maybe in some cases in real life stuff where maybe I could have got a job, maybe I could have explored a relationship with somebody, something like that, where it has hindered me, where it's kind of like messed me up, where they cast that judgment and don't want to be around. But it's never crossed my mind to hide it.
Well, here's a perfect example where it probably would. Say you have a 13 tattooed on your arm and you're walking down Venice Boulevard at nighttime and you come across some people. I would think that anybody with a reasonable mind that is not a part of that life would probably cover their tattoo up because it is a signal. And I think that's, you know, like that's moving away. The society's moving away from that, but we shouldn't ignore the fact that tattoos are deeply based in outlaw culture and criminal culture. So,
yeah, there's it's a very Western world, I think, Japanese thing, right? Any place where tattoos got outlawed, that becomes a thing of criminality for men and sexuality for women. So you have these kind of subcultures that build up around it. And yeah, that might just be modern times, right? Like there's a reason why I don't have any Aztec tattoos. Same exact thing that we're talking about.
Or I don't have Nordic tattoos.
Yeah, exactly. Right. As much as I would love to get like some Aztec artwork done, I wanted to go back to the past of where I came from and all that stuff. We do have to deal with the branding dimension, right? Like I've talked about clothing. All clothes have certain brands. That branding also fixing with tattoos. So yeah, you're right there. Where like it does become this mire of culture and society and how things are viewed.
I think it's just I think that there's a dual edge to signals, and so tattoos are signals. and they can garner you positive or negative attention. And so it really is just a matter of what kind of tattoos and where you are in those positions. Because a tattoo in of itself is not dangerous, but it's the context of the tattoo, the person. There are certain tattoos that I really like, but I couldn't get because if I were in, God forbid, a prison or something, I could be misconstrued as an affiliate with some sort of gang or something like that. And so, like that's just something you have to keep in mind when we're talking about at least tattoos in the Western world. And, Russia's the same way and Japan's the same way. I think the triads in China are the same way. So it's really only the Polynesian cultures that use tattoos as like non-criminal markers.
Go talk to like that Austro-Asian. That's what they consider the whole like that Southeastern Pacific or Southwestern Pacific, whatever it is, that Pacific region. But I don't know, like still like if you're walking around with the Aboriginal tattoo in Australia, I don't know if the white folk would like you too much. There's still some sort of like the criminality thing. It's counterculture. There's somebody that once said in the 1920s that the tattoo is like the Vogue signal of counterculture. So you have to take all of that with you as well, right?
Right. And I think that a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely. And sometimes there might be, I hate to say it, but there might be an advantage if you get like a Nordic tattoo, not being a gang member, or me getting an Aztec tattoo, not being a gang member, but I get thrown into prison, and all of a sudden I'm instantly accepted. Right. And now I don't have to watch my own back. I have very few people can survive alone in that sort of system. Right. You got to go find somebody to hang out with or else things get. So there might even be like a weird, not psyop, but a psychotech advantage to this, depending on the culture that you're in at that time. Right?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I think that it's called kind of the close to what you were talking about with clothes too. So there are certain clothes you don't wear in certain neighborhoods. There are, like this is all tied back to criminality. And so I think that, as somebody who was a poser in my teenage years and thought I was cool, definitely wasn't. And I realized that I was putting myself in positions, like where I was exuding too much bravado in an area that I had no business doing that in. And I think that, like people just need to be conscious about how they present themselves in certain areas for sure, because it'll get you in a lot of trouble.
Or it might save you, man. Like it's weird, like that double-edged sword that you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in high school I got held up at gunpoint, and basically at the same day I was looking rather down, real weak. Found out a friend of mine had overdosed on heroin and died. So just head down, real sad boy fucking vibes. And I look like a target. Look like the easiest victim you can find on the street. Well, if I walked down that same street with a little bit more bravado, a little bit like I'm the man who's holding the axe, I'm the guy who has the gun in his hoodie or something like that, maybe they wouldn't have messed with me. So this is where you get that double-edged sword of bravado-ness, where like, yeah, you might be calling attention to yourself for somebody to come in and attack you, or you might not be a victim. You might look like the person who's trying to do the crime or something like that, or find the victim, and then you don't attract that sort of attention. And it goes back to like animalistic intimidation. Really.
Yeah, unless there's a group of them, then you need to sort of find that balance again, because bravado definitely pisses off groups of men. They don't like it.
Dude, I'm like so I've started working out again, and I'm sitting in a bar and I'm wearing like a hoodie that is fitting. And this guy walks up to me, and like he walks behind me, and he wants to start a fight so bad. And he's a fresh off the boat immigrant, just way too drunk. He's a Russian guy who maybe had too much vodka and now wants to fight everybody. And like, yeah, like there's certain ways where like if you look tough, then you will attack that, or you will attract that sort of energy to you, right? And tattoos are one of the signifiers of that.
Yeah.
Right. And that can be dangerous too. Like, and that criminality element, it runs through more within more like post-industrial tattoo culture, which is kind of interesting to see. Right?
Yeah.
Even in looking at in Japan with there was a government that got elected around 1868, I want to say, around the 1860s, that outlawed tattoos. And the second it got outlawed, it made everybody with a tattoo a criminal. So then that got this gets bring into Yakuza culture and things like that, and organized crime culture. And it's weird how these laws can end up creating the ties between tattoos and criminality, right? And then with sexuality, when it comes, like, tattooing is one of the things that both men and women have shared since ancient times. We're talking like 3000 BC times. But it's interesting to see how like that thing kind of comes around, and then you have these sideshows where women would do strip teases to show off all of the tattoos that they have. That brings in the sexuality component of tattoos when it comes to women.
Uh-huh.
And it's an intriguing thing how these laws and these sort of organized groups that, for business or for law, end up creating these subcultures that currently exist now, or the ties to the subcultures that exist now.
Yeah, I believe. I mean, Japan still sort of culturally bans tattoos. I don't know if it's outright illegal. I don't think so, but they don't allow you in bathhouses or public gathering places if you have exposed tattoos. They just don't.
Yeah. And those ties are still very much there.
Yeah.
And even in ancient times, those ties were there too. So going back, like I was talking about Leviticus earlier, the Jewish faith, the Jewish people are the first ones to kind of do the tattoo by non-tattoo thing, where by not having any tattoos, they're able to create their own group. Right? Romans end up making tattoos illegal, even though the Greeks had tons of tattoos and all that stuff. But Romans end up basically like outlawing any tattoo. So Christians would end up putting tattoos of faith on them to make themselves criminals, because Christ was a criminal. So to show themselves as followers of Christ, they would get tattoos. And even to this day, people still have tattoos of faith on them. So that criminality element has always existed. And you can argue that those ties go back to, we've been talking about voluntary tattoos now, but it goes back to forced tattoos, where you would tattoo a slave, a branding sort of thing, or you would tattoo, anything that you considered property or things like that, or criminals as well got forced tattoos, especially in Japan. Like they get tattoos on the forehead. Some people will even got tattoos of the explicit crimes that they did. There's a group of women who were habitual pickpockets that end up getting the word pickpocket tattooed on their head. So, like, I think all that stuff goes back way ancient times to this ties of criminality or outlaw subculture, or if you more innocuously put, counterculture. Right?
Yeah. I think it's also there's this concept of permanence, which again I think runs a little bit paradoxical to human nature. So this strange juxtaposition between permanently stamping a symbol on your body in a very brief moment of time as a representative of all of the time of your experiences as a person. It's kind of, there's an irony there. A little bit. I don't know what it is, but it feels a little bit like cosmic irony, where we're like, I'm going to feel this way forever.
Aren't you permanently you?
This symbol that I put on myself, I'm permanently me for sure. But this symbol I put on myself in this period of time that I feel very strongly about is going to still have that strong feeling in 40 years time, because. But
I like to look back on moments like that. Even if I think, oh, I was such a dumb kid, there's still that reminiscent factor. And I think that some tattoos can serve as like a time capsule for that headspace, especially if you want to preserve it. I think about, all
Polaroids.
What?
So can Polaroids. But yeah, I get what you mean.
I mean, Polaroids can burn in a fire. They can be stolen.
Well, I got news for you about tattoos. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh yeah. Well,
One is
no,
far more
you know,
painful than the other.
yeah.
Sure.
And I was just thinking about the ability of a tattoo to transform or transmute, you know, because like some people who get mastectomies, um, you know, you lose the nipple in that surgery. And so the ability for an artist to recreate that, to give a person a sense of, I don't know, mm, continuity from what they used to see in the mirror, that's really helpful to some people. Or if like you have a scar or like a nasty burn or something like that, I've seen people either go the route of like 20 surgeries to get that skin as close to what it used to be versus just tattoo over it, or having this sense where like your body doesn't reflect what you want it to, so then it's like, well, screw it, I'm just gonna put whatever, you know, like some people they'll only do flash Friday tattoos, and the worst tattoos you could pick up. But the point is sort of like this Dadaism, absurdism, like it doesn't fucking matter kind of attitude, and that can be really empowering too. So there, I think there is the duality that you mentioned, but I do think there's this like transformative empowerment too that can come from them.
Yeah, I don't argue that. I just say that that like the empowerment isn't permanent, unlike the tattoo.
Well, it might be reflective of the paradox of just being a human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where, I mean, we're always us, but at the same time, we change throughout time.
And we're naive to think we all gonna reach old age. Like, if it's your time, it can be very sudden and out of the blue and chaotic, and boom, you're done. You never know. So
I
I
know,
think
But I
that's
mean,
another
you could
way
use
to-
that to justify, hurting somebody right now.
But I
Yeah.
didn't.
I know, but like we all hope that we have long lives. That's we know that it could
Do
be
we
tomorrow.
though? Do we all hope to have long lives, or are
Most
we
of us
just
do. Most of
stuck
us do.
to have long lives?
No, we're not in Gnostic prisons.
this isn't that conversation. We're trying to keep things light for the people. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I think about too, like scarification in certain like tribal societies being sort of like a rite of passage. Maybe a tattoo, even if you regret it, can still signal a rite of passage, and it's part of you now.
Maybe that
Too.
regret, quote unquote, is the maturity, right? That you feel you have the snapshot on you somewhere, right? And then you regret it later on, and maybe that regret is the mark of maturity, that the tattoo itself is the vehicle of passage that happens. It's, like you said, the rite of passage. The tattoo is that vehicle that gets you there to be like, oh, that was dumb. I shouldn't have gotten. I should have never tattooed my first wife's name on my chest, right, or something like that.
Definitely don't tattoo names. That's rule number one for anybody.
unless they're your kids' names.
Fair. That's fair. I think that's probably the only acceptable name tattoo.
Yeah. Until you find out that you hate your kid, then
Right.
you gotta get it. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just going to invest in laser technology because I'm waiting for the prices to go down.
Or your kid like hates their name and changes it, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I guess I'll put a little slash.
Yeah, there you go.
Add
Slash
it
through.
there.
I was also thinking of, like, speaking of nipples, there's a time where I almost lost a nipple. And I'm thinking, like, would I gotten tattooed? Yeah, it was in high school. I was really insecure about my body hair, so I would shave my chest. I straight up almost shaved off my nipple, where I could like peel the nipple back and blood would squirt out.
Oh
Like that.
God,
Yikes.
that sounds
Yeah.
terrible. But also,
It
you
healed.
mentioned nipples in high school. I literally witnessed a school fight where somebody ripped a nipple off and it went flying in the air. And I thought you were going to go that route, and I was like, "Dang, why are people going for the nipples in high school?" But
No, I was going the dumber route, the almost shaving off. It reminds me of Seven, that movie Seven, where they're like, "Hey, if you shave," he's like shaving his chest so that you can put a wire on. He's like, "Hey, if you shave off a nipple, can you claim workman's comp?" And Morgan Freeman
Probably.
goes, "If you're brave enough to file the claim, you should get the money." And I was like, would I tattoo a nipple on my chest if I lost my nipple?
I'd ask for them to cut the other one off.
would you?
Oh.
Go alien style. I mean, if it's all about being unique, and we're talking tattoos here, what's more unique than not having any nipples?
That's
And
true.
I'm a man. I don't gotta feed no children.
It's very true.
I gotta
Yeah.
breastfeed nobody.
They're
Yeah,
kind
probably.
of useless on us.
Yeah, they're only to let you know that you gotta buy new clothes. That's it.
Yes,
Because when it
right.
gets cold and my nipple pokes through my clothes, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta get a larger shirt or something. There's something got to be done here.
Starting to wear thin on the shirt. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh shit. But no, like I think like tattoos. I like both. Like I think it is the proper symbol of the human paradox because we change. There's no way. Hopefully, you're not the same person you were 10 or 20 years ago, right? But it is like a strange rite of passage to put it on. I think it's the perfect symbol of the paradox of human nature.
Certainly. And I'm not making any moral judgment about tattoos at all. I still enjoy them, and I still enjoy seeing beautiful tattoos. There's tons on Instagram. There's great artists everywhere. I do think that you're touching on this concept that I do find ironic. It's just that, like if we're supposed to be sort of fluctuating people in our lives, and we're supposed to be constantly evolving, to sort of like know that you're going to feel this way about a certain particular symbol for the rest of your life it's a little funny. it's a little funny, but it is our nature. We want to be able to permanentize things. We want to be able to say that this is X, Y, and Z. And we know this because if we don't do that, then we got chaos and we're floating around with no idea which way is up or down. So
yeah, those are like the two tattoos I have. One is like a null set symbol. I'm gonna stand up. Null set symbol and a phi symbol. I just bumped my mic. I'm so sorry. Basic idea: null set is a set full of nothing. Or the notion of nothingness. For me, it does act like a moral compass where I can always return to this nothing state. Whereas the phi symbol represents growth, represents it is the symbol for the golden ratio, which is how leaves grow, rabbits reproduce, all of that fun stuff. So it's tied to nature everywhere. Basic idea is like you could grow in different directions. And when life goes sideways, because when life always goes sideways, you start back at nothing and you grow again. And it has been kind of nice. It has been grounding in a sense. I don't know if in the future that will change, but it's been the guiding principle for at least since 2016.
I think we don't. I think what happens too, and maybe we probably don't discuss this enough as a society, or maybe we do, and I'm just not listening. But I think people go through epochs. I think that there are certain like chunks of life where you almost play out certain archetypes. And so I find that a lot of tattooing happens during the immortal years, in which somebody is just getting into adulthood and still under 30, and they feel like the world is full of opportunity. And they call those the immortal years, where you're young, you're vibrant, nothing's getting you down. You're just fucking go, 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 go. And I think that a lot of people tend to get tattooed during that age, which kind of makes sense because you're exploring the world, you're exploring your place in the world. And I think that tattoos can, at least from what I hear from people, except for the ones that get this dumb flash tattoos that don't mean anything, most people have significant meaning behind their tattoos. So I think that that's maybe a mechanism for young people to sort of establish their personas.
Sure, but like that also those are also the party years. Those are like the years where you kind of sort yourself out. It seems proper to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess the point is you're not immortal forever. So.
No, well,
debatable.
Arguably through technology, yes. I will live through
Someday.
This podcast forever
Until
whatever server provider YouTube uses. I guess Google would have their own. They have their own cloud platform, so they have to have their own server somewhere. Until asteroids hit that thing or the sun blows up. Technically, I exist. Don't know.
Technically, yeah.
Technical immortality is the best kind of immortality because it's technical.
Now, if we to the point where technology gets good enough that over the course of the 1,000 years that this podcast gets played, we just put little one little tattoo on you each episode, and you're just covered in tattoos by the end of it. That's what we do.
Yeah, you could do that. Hey,
it's just like a filter that we can put over the
yeah, of course. Yeah, I could. I'm actually thinking how I could code that. Yeah, that's codable. You can do that.
I'm curious.
Especially
Nick,
have access to the. Oh, go for it, Dale.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, if you had, instead of one of your arm sleeves that you have now, if you instead were able to go back in time and get those watercolor style Pokemon characters as a sleeve, would you be feeling the same way, or would you be enamored with them?
I think I might feel more the same way because I'd be a near 40-year-old man with Pokemon tattoos. And I refuse to
wrong
be
with
that.
You know what's funny? You mentioned age, and I remember a person who actually encouraged me to get a tattoo. He was a boss of mine, and I think he had just turned 60 or 65. And before I started a year prior, he had gotten his first tattoo. And it was like one of those cool tiger tattoos, and it was on his shoulder, and he always wore tank top. He loved it. No, he loved it so much. It just made it work. It was so cute.
Oh my God.
It was adorable. No, you have no idea. It was really well done. He's a really good artist.
Or was it adorkable?
Well, he was adorable, and the tattoo looked good. And he just walked around, and he was really digging it. And I just remember thinking, like, gosh, I don't want to be 60 and then get my first tattoo. And I didn't get to live my whole life the way I wanted. Like, if you know what I mean? Like, there's some tattoos that I have that I'm like, I wanted that for 10 years, and then I got it. And so I think that's probably also why I don't have as much regrets and why I want more, is because it's kind of like, if you're going to do it anyway, you might as well just do it. But I guess you can't predict, right? So that's probably what you're trying to tease out there.
He's been tattooed for 20 years, so over amount of time.
Well, I will ask my friend when he's 80 if he regrets his tattoo.
He might. If it's one of those Sailor Jerry like tiger tattoos.
It's not. No, it's like an artistic tattoo.
Well, those Sailor tattoos, those are funny stories, man. Sorry, So also too, I'm a beer man. I try to open up this bottle of wine.
What is that? Is that a bat?
It's a Molotov cocktail.
Lovely. Oh, you stuffed. You could. Oh, because you lost your cork.
The cork's in the bottle.
The paper does nothing. Trust me. I've tried that before.
I'm just trying to keep the flies out of it.
Oh yeah, the flies are a thing. But yeah, I mean, let it breathe. You're gonna be sucking down tannins if you just don't let it breathe.
That's fair. But I figure like it's not like paper towel itself's not compact enough, so I'm hoping air gets through. It's like a ghetto. It's like a ghetto breather, whatever the hell they're called.
Oh, aerator.
Aerator, yeah. It's a ghetto raider. But I'm hoping that works. But man, open up wine bottles. Anyways, back to the thing. Yeah, no, it's I wonder if time does like over a long enough time. If you get X amount of tattoos over Y amount of time, that becomes a thing where you have a higher probability of like I never should have gotten that one. I never should have gotten that one, or that sort of thing, And because I would get a Psyduck tattoo, and then Psyduck's pretty dope. That was my favorite tattoo, or that's my favorite Pokemon as a kid.
Yeah, and then if it's watercolor, it's not lame as you age because now it's art. See.
Until your skin gets so saggy that it's all just a smeared, weird blob that nobody can tell.
Okay.
Well,
I've been working out with 80-year-olds. The skin doesn't sag that bad. It just
tattoo skin does.
Well, I've seen old tattoo skin, and it's still not bad. It's fine. It's totally.
I doubt. Are you sure? Because an old tattoo is very noticeable.
What I'm hearing, yes, it is. Well, I have a story about that. But what I'm hearing here is a business opportunity where we invent a product that can keep the tattoo skin looking young. keep
Yeah,
your
I need
tattoo
like a
looking great.
lotion that
Just the tattoo skin. Though.
Just the
Everything
tattoo.
just the
else
tattoo skin.
ages.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
you keep the
that's
tattoos fresh. You know, actually, I don't know if it's in Japan or if it's worldwide now, but I am aware that I read somewhere that there is somebody who has created like a tattoo museum where when you die, you can donate your tattooed skin and then they will preserve it and
Oh, I thought we were gonna.
display it in a museum.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna say like stretch it out, put it into a
I mean,
frame.
I think they
They
do.
do. They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah.
They have a Yakuza member, and they have whole back and front tattoos.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's the only freaky thing is like I'm okay with like a little piece of a tattoo that doesn't look like it's a skin part, but when it's like a whole outline of a person, now I'm
just
feeling like
skinning
I'm in
somebody.
Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, exactly.
Looks like you're in a Hannibal movie or something.
Mhm.
Exactly. Don't miss your notes.
All right. So there is a story I do want to tell about old tattoos, and it happened. I was actually reminded of the story while doing research for this, and I was like 16. This also goes into forest tattoos, but it's the only tattoo that I've ever seen that has like visibly shaken me. So I was like 16, maybe 17, working at Vaughn's, bagging groceries, doing the thing after school. And this old guy comes up, and at the same time, I'm chatting with the cashier, and we're going back and forth about the day. And he's very quiet. He's just kind of like paying his thing, and then like pretty sharp. And then he reaches out, and I see a set of numbers. And then it hits me what that means. Because
Mhm.
I worked in a mainly Jewish community. And the old man with the set of numbers on his hand somewhere around here. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember exactly where, but I remember seeing it. That was like a proper Holocaust survivor.
Mhm.
And that was one of the only tattoos I've ever seen that hit me so hard.
Yeah.
So the question I have, I guess, to work it into a more lighter sense would be this. Do you feel like any of your tattoos have power? And if so, which one has the most power for you?
Interesting question. I don't know. Not necessarily. I don't think that I have any tattoo that has enough history. I mean, especially after that story. I don't know if
Yeah,
they
it
have
has to be comparable. It has to be a
Yeah,
fucking one-to-one
there's
comparison.
there's no comparing. No, I don't
Yeah,
know.
of course, never. There's
Yeah,
no comparison.
No, I have like my tattoos are personal to. I don't know if I've ever seen them as a sort of totem of power before. More of personal markers in a life or things that felt impactful to me. But I don't know, not necessarily powerful. I don't think that any of my I think maybe when I was younger, I thought it was cool to have tattoos on your forearms, and maybe that's a sense of like, oh, that made me feel a little bit powerful. But yeah, I think that's probably the extent of it. It's like, oh, I liked having visible tattoos.
Yeah. How about you, Ayla? And it doesn't have to be a one-to-one comparison to it.
Yeah.
That
No,
thing,
of course not.
that
No, I
thing,
get
like, did you look me in the eyes and I just pretty much died in a second? Like I was like, oh, this is yeah, whatever you need, man.
Yeah, pretty much.
Words I can't even imagine.
I remember in middle school, once a year, there would be a gentleman that would visit, and he was a conductor, and he would bring with him like a bunch of different symphony players, and they would just play songs. But yeah, he had one of those tattoos and he was a survivor. And, it was just one of those beautiful things where he was going to inner city kids' schools trying to share classical music with them, and the fun ones that get the kids going, like the Bumblebee one.
Yeah.
And to see that live is incredible. And then to think about him navigating what he navigated is truly heartbreaking. And, and I think I've seen interviews with other survivors about like, well, would you ever cover that up, or like try to get rid of it or something? And there's been really interesting responses about how people sort of, I don't know, contended with that. God, yeah, that's hard to follow.
Because if like if you have you must have seen it as I would imagine, as a mark of strength that you got through that whole experience, right? Because there might have
at that
been
point,
other.
it's also a piece of national history.
Yeah.
And I mean, you become, I mean, that, not to sound macabre, but like that tattoo is a piece of history now.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I think I read so I have like a really big scar on my knee, and nothing like the guy that you mentioned, but I remember reading about other people with like really bad injuries, really bad scars, and one of the things they said about sort of integrating that was that it was a reminder that happened, that the brain is so skilled at trying to hide in denial, or it tries to forget. And sometimes having a physical reminder of the scars you can't see helps you to remember that like you're not crazy. It's just like that happened, and it like, you know what I mean? Like, because it's really easy to gaslight yourself, I think, and then, but to have something like that, it definitely is like, yeah, you lived through that and you get to tell your story.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, the well, I'll save that for the later part of the show.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think do any of your tattoos have power over you?
That's what you were asking.
That sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah. Like, let's see. There's this one. Yeah, I mean, I think one of them does, and I think it makes me so happy. I mean, you guys were there. I wanted a tattoo. It's a Navajo prayer line. And so that has significance from a spiritual side. But because Navajo was an oral language, I didn't necessarily want it in the English translation of how you would write that word. So I wanted it in Tengwar, which, as you know, is the Lord of the Rings Elvish language, but not precisely, because it's kind of hard to read it in the specific Tengwar. So I had this really long conversation with this scary looking tattoo artist who was on my side, and I was going to back off, and I said something like, you know what, that's fine. You could just do some pretty cursive. And he was like, a big pause, and he straightens his back and he sits back a little bit, and he's like, yeah, no, fuck no. He's like, you want Tengwar? You're going to get Tengwar. And I was like, well, Tengwar-ish. And he's like, Tengwar-ish, let's do it. And his poor assistant in the shop had to go over it like so many times. But, like that moment is so like, I guess, yeah, empowering, because I wanted something specific and I was about to give up on it. And somebody was like, no, like, even if I don't understand why you want this Elvish tattoo that seems really weird, I'm going to advocate for you to get the tattoo that you want, and I thought that was just like a nice bonus to something that was already like really special.
Yeah, and that goes out to like a shout out to all the tattoo artists. When they know that you want something specific, or it means something to you, it's not like some bullshit tattoo. They'll go out of their way to help you in every way possible that they can. At least the good ones will. Not like the garage tattoo person that you get at the party when you're like 10 shocks deep and somebody's like, 2 tattoos in the garage. You'd never, please don't do that.
Go to the guy at the swap meet.
Please go to a professional. Like if you're doing that stuff, you might as well just learn to tattoo and tattoo yourself. Do the rite of passage as the tattoo artist and learn how to tattoo yourself. In the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. That's cool. I do have one question though. What's Lord of the Rings?
Oh, it's some book. It's just some book. No, you know what? I was actually really happy with my decision to go that way too, because I was really sad one day, and I was like, you know what I need? I need some Lord of the Rings quotes. And by George, if they didn't just make you so like warm and fuzzy inside. It's the hobbits. It's the innocence of the hobbits that carries that story. And it's just so pure and good. And it's a good,
10
it's a
out of
good
10.
book.
What is it
Hmm.
again? That sort of book.
Yeah, and I'm such a poser because I've never read it actually like cover to cover. I've just sort of like gotten pieces and pieces, and like everybody that has sort of been in my life is a huge Lord of the Rings fan. So I have all these memories, and it's one of those longer reads that like I'm saving. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else does that, but there's some books I just don't want to read as a young person.
I gotcha. Yeah, all in due time, right?
Oh yeah, like The Sun Also Rises. That's
I
a
know.
that's a 70-year-old's book. That's 60 me.
All in due time, my dear friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for me, the second tattoo has been the craziest. Like it's the one. So like I do feel pretty like significant, symbolic, and like fourth or fifth dimensional power. Like I wonder if I didn't get this tattoo, the phi symbol. If I didn't get this
Mhm.
tattoo, would I make the same decisions that I've made? Sort of thing.
Mm.
Like it almost has a certain sort of
Life motto to it.
control is the proper word. Control over me. Um, so like this tattoo I got in New Zealand when I was living there, and I was supposed to get this. I should have actually. I still have the Duke's business card, but I should have. I should have seen this one artist, and he was replaced by another artist that was very, very well known, renowned. It ended up being a single needle tattoo through a tattoo gun. And typically, you have like I think it's your 10-inch like 9 round liners. So like you'll have a certain amount of needles in a certain configuration, and everything's placed out on this needle. This one, the first one I got down in Long Beach, was more of your typical tattoo, where there's more than one needle there. The one that I got in New Zealand was one needle, and I remember it being incredibly painful. And even before I got it, I didn't know. Like I knew I always wanted it, but I didn't know if I was at the stage in my life where I was ready to get it. And once I got it, it almost even now and then it feels a little bit unruly. Like it holds a certain power over me in a weird way. That makes sense.
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, well, because of the experience, for sure. I mean, I think that's the other thing about tattoos is everybody likes to talk about the tattoo, but when you sit down in that chair and that sound starts going and you smell the alcohol that was used to clean the skin, and then it's just and it's like buzzing against your arm, and you can see them wiping away blood. You're just like, oh no, what did I do?
There was so I went in once I figured out it was like a single needle tattoo. I went in with the thing that I wasn't going to show any pain, tried to do a very traditional style thing. And the guy next to me was getting he was getting his shading done. So it was in line where like there's like 3 or 4 needles followed by another amount of needles, and the shading was being done. And it just sounded like a tap. And meanwhile, I'm laying there and it just sounds like somebody's like trying to like destroy my arm or something. And the amount of pain that I felt with this tattoo, mind you, the 2 hardest things to tattoo are a circle and a line. And I asked him to line it up exactly the same as my other line. So my other tattoo is the first one, so they could share symmetry, meaning, and all of that crap. Only difference is 33 degrees, all that noise. And he was like, it's going to be a few mils off, but no one's going to know. So like, I don't give a shit. But as it's going down, like the amount of pain that tattoo was, the only thing that I can compare it to is when there's a doctor digging through my hand to pull glass out. That's like I was so high off of the endorphins that your brains release. And endorphins afterwards, I almost forgot to pay. I almost just straight up walked out of the tattoo shop. And he was like, hey man, you gotta come back. And I was like, oh yeah, money here. Take. I just threw all the money I had in my wallet. I'm like, figure it out. I don't know what's going on right now. But it was like it did feel like a strangely sacred experience, you know. I wonder if part of modern tattoo culture within the Western world, if that's lacking a tiny bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I remember my first tattoo I got on my rib cage because I figured I knew I wanted more. So I would start with the most painful one and it would be downhill from there. And some of the outlining and lettering they did single needle, and yeah, it feels like someone stabs you in the rib cage and then just drags it. Somebody was like, "Oh no, it's like a kitty cat claw." I was like, "No, no, 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 no. Not the first part of this situation. This is horrible." I had to go like dead eye and like, freaking disassociate from the moment just to stay there. And I know Nick, he has a tattoo with circular aspects to it, and I remember him very much not enjoying that process.
Yeah, I don't enjoy the pain very much, to be honest. Some spots are easier than others, though. You got some sensitive in some places, though, and you only find that out when they're dragging a needle across you. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know how you got through that under the bicep tattoo.
That's the worst one.
That's huge too.
That's the worst.
Yeah, this stupid huge tattoo in the most painful spot. Did you know going in, or?
Well, they told me when I was sitting down and they were, had the gun ready. But at that point, what are you gonna do?
Right. Did they
Say
start in and go out, or did they start out and go in?
I don't remember. I think they started with the closest to the armpit first, because that's the most painful.
Yeah.
It
helps. It helps to be hungover because then the pain in your brain takes over the pain. No,
yeah, there you go. Right?
Try that theory. Yeah.
So-
no. Well, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was just gonna say, going back to the pain thing, I think, like, yeah, something about moments of there's something about extreme pain. Like there's a lot of cultures that will use pain to sort of evoke a experience from the receiver of that pain. And I don't know if tattoos. I know some tattoos definitely get to that threshold where you can start to feel a little delirious or pass out or something. But yeah, I don't know. I just was thinking about like the spiritual use of pain for the application of it.
That is the rite of passage. If you go through pain, deadpan, showing emotions, at least within a lot of like boy becoming a man sort of thing, then you've done it, right? You've become a man now, and now you can go out and hunt. You can do manly things. Then if not, then you either stuck with a permanent marker of shame. What culture was this? Was this Philippine culture? I think it was Philippine culture. Tabak Baktao, whatever the word for tattooing is. It might be completely off too. But basically, if you could sit through a whole tattoo, you were fine. And then in scarification cultures is the same, especially in African cultures, where if you could sit through a whole scarification process, it could take weeks or months even, days, days, weeks or months, not showing you pain, you've become a man now. But if not, then you're branded with this tattoo that's not done, or branded with the scarification that's not done. And it's a symbol that you're still a boy. Then the more hardcore cultures, you never get another chance to prove your manhood. Other cultures you can. But I think that the pain aspect there, that is still a rite of passage, even for us, where if you could get through the whole thing, like we're a little bit more lenient on it. Like if you pass out, somebody's going to stop tattooing you. They'll treat it like a wound. For the most part, you can consider tattoo artists almost like very specialized field medics. We're like, they know exactly what the person's going through. They know medically like how to treat them, and they understand all that stuff. How to keep a clean, sterile environment, everything that's necessary. But if you get through the whole process, even if you need orange juice, if you need water, unit break, anything like that, then you have gone through this whole process, and pain is that vehicle that gets you through it. I think it's highly symbolic and highly important for our culture.
It's interesting because as you're talking, I was thinking about the Sundance. Is it the Sundance where they take the eagle claw and they would embed it in a person's chest and then lift them up? And yeah, I mean, like, that to me seems very painful. And yet there's a part of me that thinks there's a difference between pain of flesh, which is like skin, muscle, tissue, and pain of, say, I don't know, like a shattered kneecap. Because I don't know, like, I've broken things and I've had cuts and stuff, and I did not scream. I was very calm and maintained composure. But that injury, I was screaming before my brain caught up to what had happened. And
Of
so I
course.
wonder, in the thresholds of pain, even like in cultures where that evolved, it's like they had to find forms of pain that you can like come back from and keep a stiff upper lip. Or it could be the power of seeing other people continually go through that and not scream that empowers you to say, I can do this too. I don't know.
Yeah, you gotta look at it from like rites of passage of pain is much different than, like, if you're in the ancient world and you shattered your kneecap, you're dead. Hate to break this to you.
true.
but,
You wouldn't
like,
be able to live and tell about it.
yeah, see you later. So we're talking about two different worlds here, right? Maybe the dividing line is with hobbling. Have you ever seen the movie Misery?
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, in my infirmitude, I tended to pick a lot of movies where people got kneecap injuries.
Oh no, you're so sweet. You're just looking for
Desensitization.
complimentary pains and some sort of compassion, some sympathy, that sort of shit.
Maybe. I mean, Misery was the only one where I knew going in, but there were several movies that were like new shows that came out, and just out of the blue, somebody gets like hobbled at the knee or a hammer to the knee or all this knee stuff. And I just was like mostly upset that the directors and the scripting do not accurately reflect the amount of rehab that would come after some of those injuries. Like, that was just maybe.
You think any of those actors or directors actually went through knee? You think they actually got their knees shattered?
I expect them, if they're going to have a big injury like that, to consult. I'm
Authenticity.
available, and
Authenticity in Hollywood is not within their lexicon. All right.
All I'm saying is this one chick took a hammer to the knee, and like 2 weeks later, she's walking with a cane and cute pants. I was like, oh, my sweet summer child. There's no freaking way
I love
not
the
be wearing
added.
pants.
I love the added in cute pants. That's
Yes, I couldn't wear pants for over a year. All my pants, all my beautiful pants. Just
no lost utility. Yeah, no, but tattoos. Oh, so one of the oldest tattoos, this guy that was dug up from the Nordic region in about 3260 BC, or he wasn't dug up in 3260 BC, but he lived back then, I think. One of the oldest records. He had like over 60 tattoos on his body. They were all to cover up scars and different skeletal issues. So this is too has been a thing with indigenous cultures. Then either Iroquois or the Southeast, like civilized tribes type stuff down there. They had tattoos that would cover up pains on nerves or certain like skeletal malfunctions or injuries, or they would get tattoos down their jawline to stop pain, to try to sever the nerve so that they wouldn't feel pain around the jaw. So tattoo has always had this sort of has also had like medical sort of purposes or aesthetic purposes to cover up medical injuries.
It's interesting.
So, yeah, it's very natural to cover up scars with tattoos.
Well, and it's interesting too, like when you think, like you mentioned, if you have a bad injury like that, you just die. I do think that there would be people who have something where maybe they can't walk well, so they can't really contribute in the same ways, and then they end up transitioning to more of like the wise sage type of role or something like that, an herbologist role or something that ends up expanding things and finding new ways of being contributory, which is just kind of interesting too, because again, I can see tattoos aiding in that identity transition.
Yeah, of course. It's meant to identify you, right? Like we started out this conversation about it being a mark of
The
maturity.
AI boogeyman. Yeah. Nick.
Hey, I'm telling you, you know what? I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind putting in some things in like ChatGPT or something and asking them for a tattoo. Or asking, not them, well, like technically at them, but
Or
asking it for a tattoo idea and seeing what it creates.
yeah,
If it can, it doesn't really understand the notion of a tattoo though, the same way holistically that we're talking about, but we could give it a try.
ask it if it wants a tattoo. See
We
what
have
it says.
to. We would have to develop the neural nerve relationship. It has to have a body. It
Right.
would have
right.
to understand its own body in order for it to give us something that is meaningful for humans, I feel like.
That would be funny if you pop on and then like on your screensaver, it suddenly has like a little robot tattoo and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. It found its body.
One of like, I would love like, so Maori, they have their own style of tattooing within their own culture that nobody else can get within their tribe. Completely understand it, completely respect it. And they have one for outsiders. I kind of want to combine that with binary language and kind of computer culture, hacker culture, and get that all on the sleeve here. I'd really enjoy that. Or maybe
like some code, like how like Angelina Jolie has that hand poke tattoo that's like rose. You could do that, but it would be like code or math or something.
It'd take a long time. Because like I would want all the shoulder to be in black, and then using subtractive space. I forgot there's some negative space to pull out the symbols on the arm. But it would be very like tribally based, or like a mix in the right tribe within the right computer sort of culture. I think it would look cool. That would mean something to me too. Being carrying my life towards computer programming and that stuff.
I feel like Nick has thoughts. What's with that little hand there?
He's like, you're gonna regret it 20 years from now. You're gonna hate it.
New quotes
Don't do it. Yeah. This is the most amount of bullshit I've ever heard.
Well, no, I was thinking about you guys' conversation about rites of passage and pain and stuff like that. And while I do think that you guys are right that we do sort of treat tattoos as rites of passage, I don't know if we should. Because pain, the pain aspect of a rite of passage is just the initiation. The latter part of the rite of passage is the acceptance of the responsibilities of the adults that you're supposed to be within the tribe. So I don't know if we can categorize just simply going through the pain of a tattoo as a reason enough to earn it. Because there's more rites of passages tend to have more involved than just pain. It's responsibility that you take on as well. Now, if you wanted to talk about the way military get tattoos, I think that would be the closest approximation to rites of passage, because military members are only allowed to get certain tattoos and nobody else is allowed to get those tattoos, and they have to have gone through combat and they have to have gone through the horrors of war in order to earn those tattoos. And so I think that we're kind of missing a sort of like a fundamental aspect of what that is in order to call it a rite of passage. Although I do agree that we kind of consider them rites of passage in our more modern time, but there's nothing sacrificed. And I think that's a missing piece.
So the sacrifice comes in after with the responsibilities of being an adult in the tribe. Right? You no longer get to be a boy, you don't get to longer hang out. The price to admission is the pain you go through. And you're right, when it comes, so this is where it gets weird, because military folk are a special group. I love them. I used to hang out with a bunch of vets as a kid. Some of my best friends were like Navy intelligence. Like they're an eclectic group, a good group. But military tattoos were born out of boredom. They were
Mhm.
born because naval patches took a long time, and there's a lot of and the same thing with waiting in between battles. So like I get the battle thing, but if you steep yourself into military culture, war is it's not something that it comes as a price later.
Oh,
Once
it's
you
about
realize the
earning it
war is
though,
over.
because I couldn't rock a USMC tattoo.
Sure,
I would
like
get beaten the shit out of by a bunch of Marines.
sure, like you have to go through the training and all of that, but that's still controlled pain, right?
No,
Like
I would even say that there are probably subsets of military people who don't like people who haven't been out to deployment getting tattoos.
that's
That's like the
something.
special ops stuff.
Yeah, but even in Spec Ops, right? Once you go through the passage of going through your training, getting to your Spec Ops group, and then going on your first mission, and then coming back, all of that true is the rite of passage. But in common, not in other cultures where this tattooing is happening, it's supposed to be an equivalent, right? If you go through your first mission and you come back off of deployment, all of that, you may have never been shot at. You may not have even fired your gun, but you are still okay with getting that tattoo because you went to deployment and came back. You may have advised people and trained people. Right? Look at proxy wars. I highly doubt if our troops are getting their hands dirty, nobody's supposed to know about it. Right? But you don't know that unless you're in that group. All I'm saying is that the two are supposed to be comparable. For the tattoo, the rite of passage comes through the physical pain within the military group. That physical pain of getting a tattoo is just all part of the whole process of training, getting into your team going on your first deployment, your team coming back, and now the icing on the cake.
It's the reward. It's the thing that you earned.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Nobody earns tattoos when you just go into a tattoo shop and pick what you want. You know?
Yeah, that's in our culture.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That was my point.
Just keep going,
I got you.
though,
I missed the
right?
point. My bad.
What's it, Ayla?
I was just saying you can just keep going though. It's like, well, you can't get a tattoo until you're deployed. Oh, but only to these wars. Only
okay,
these
but this is how these things
wars.
originated in our culture, Ayla. I'm saying that sailors and military people really brought tattoos to Western culture and to American culture. It was sailors and military people that really broke the tattoo craze. The only reason we're talking about it right now is because those guys got tattoos. So
in Western civilization. Tribes have been doing it for a long time.
We live in Western civilization.
And that Swedish guy.
What Swedish?
The mummy.
Yeah, the Nordic guy.
The Nordic guy.
Right. But do you think that maybe his scars were from battle?
Well, we'd have to wake him up and ask him.
Okay. Now we're going to play semantics.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, maybe he just had some really bad skin and some dermatitis and he just wanted to get him cut out.
So what I love about the sailor tattoo culture is that it really was out of boredom, man. You would go
but you wouldn't. But there is still a level of entry, and the level of entry is suffering through that boredom with your compatriots. Yes, if I were to get the sailor tattoo and then go up to a whole bunch of Navy guys, they would be pissed at me because I didn't earn
valor.
Right.
Yeah. No. I got you. Like I was kind of I was also thinking about the indigenous group trying to compare the rites of passage.
Right, just like you say, when the boy doesn't go through the scarification and fails to do that, he has a mark of shame for his whole life. It would be like him scarring himself up without going through the process and then going up to his tribe mates and being like, I did it, guys. Yeah. And then they're like, fuck you. No, you didn't, because we have to watch you suffer, because that's what it's about.
He could get a flash tattoo because I think you made an important distinction. Again, going back to the type of tattoo. You get a Sailor Jerry type of tattoo, it's different than like, a butterfly tattoo or something like that. Or
that's where we go back to the symbols that we put on ourselves. Yes. Yeah. Because now certain symbols are specifically relegated to subsects of groups. Right. Like you wouldn't get a 13 on your arm or
you want to know what I find hilarious? You want to know what the first sailors I'm gonna piss off the Navy so much. I'm gonna piss off the Navy. You want to know what the first sailors? They came from the Brits, so not American. The first tattoo ink that was born within sailors in that tribe.
Oh, tattoo ink.
What it was made of?
What it was made of? Oh,
made out of only 2 ingredients:
squid ink.
Yeah, you're close enough to the barrel. That made me laugh. No, it was gunpowder and piss.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like the tattoo artist would mix gunpowder with his own piss and start to tattoo that on you.
Why
Mhm.
couldn't he just use his client's piss? It seems better.
Because he was
No.
drinking his client's piss. It's the Navy. What are you talking about?
There you go.
Drinking it? What? No.
Yeah. Well, anyways.
Yeah, I'm going to hell.
I'm
Alright,
just
it's okay, though.
thinking about
No,
those like
there's a lot of gay jokes.
nutrition.
There's a lot of gay jokes within
Oh.
within the Navy. So that's what I was making.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just think that the poor nutrition would have led to some foul pee.
Oh, that
Yes.
doesn't matter. You're getting it into your
Whatever.
skin. It just matters how the tattoo.
It's sterile. It's cool. Don't
Yeah,
Yeah,
worry.
you'll
no.
be
If I'm getting
Yeah.
pee in my skin, it's gonna be my pee. Just want
but-
that on the record.
Mhm.
That's fair enough. But no,
Because I mean, like you know, like if you get someone else's organs or something, like there's a risk of rejection. I just wonder, like, would a
if your
body
skin
be...
rejects the ink and all of a sudden it starts to like pop up and like it pushes the tattoo out.
That happens
Yeah,
with normal
these
tattoos.
keloid
Yeah.
tattoos.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like this, like the tattoo I got in New Zealand. I was I was dumb enough to take off the bandages like a day or two before. I'm standing out there in the New Zealand sun where there's a ozone layer hole.
Oh,
And
Jesus.
now some of the ink is missing. I'm like, well, if I ever run into the artist that did this, he's gonna be pissed at me. But at the same time, it adds another layer to the tattoo itself, which is fine.
And a good story.
Yeah. What can you do? Yeah, no, I do find it interesting, this comparable thing of rites of passage. But no, I still like Nick was saying, the choice of tattoo is important. You kind of have to stay in your lane
Mhm.
about what you choose to get, or probably face the consequences, right? But it all comes in certain groups. It all comes in certain sets. I mean, one of the thing that it reminded me of was in I apologize. Excuse me. What is Hostel? When in Hostel and Hostel 2, where if you were somebody that hunted somebody, if you were part of that group, then you got the tattoo of the bloodhound.
Mhm.
And if you just in any normal section, if you just like got a tattoo of a bloodhound or that exact tattoo, and you never went through that, then there are consequences to that. So it is like a rite of entry too, right?
Yeah, that's why gangs make you black out your ink, or they burn it off of you if you leave the gang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same
You're
thing
not
might be
worthy
said.
anymore.
There's certain things that might. Yeah, I'm sure other groups have a certain similar passage as well, right? Like those are tickets of entry, and that's why tattoos are so important. Whereas in like the modern consumer tattoo world, where like, if I got a Psyduck on my arm, then I got a Psyduck on my arm. It's just consumer culture. Unless I start a Psyduck gang, where we all try to combine psychic energy to, to destroy something.
Now you're on to something. you
Yeah,
know?
there we go. I'm
Yeah.
working on it. Don't worry,
To
man.
create an initiation process to get the Psyduck tattoo,
Sure,
and then
yeah.
it actually means something. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna chemically induce a migraine into you, and you have to survive for the next 3
Right.
days without food or water. Good luck.
Hmm.
No, I'm just kidding. So we're winding down, I think, right? Our time is coming towards an end here within our 90-minute session. Appreciate and love all of y'all, both our co-host and our audience. But I do have a question for you. If you're gonna get a next tattoo, or you're gonna remove the tattoo, what tattoo would you get? What tattoo would you remove, and why?
That's a good question. I can play it both games. So, like, if I decided that I wanted to get another tattoo, which I don't necessarily do, I think I would make sure that I did like an arm piece. And I don't know what I would do 100% yet, but I would want to make sure that it's like a big piece that all fits together. Because all of my tattoos are hodgepodge. There's no cohesion to them. So yeah, if I were to get another tattoo, I would want to make sure that it's like a larger piece and it all flows together and it doesn't look kind of out of place. If I were to remove a tattoo, I think I would remove all the ones on my forearms, for sure. Just
What would
because.
be the no? I remember when I first met you.
Mhm.
I was a young little scrappy man going to Starbucks, asking
Yes.
for green iced tea. I talked about your tattoos, and you're like, Mike, if you decide to get tattoos on your arm, get a whole sleeve so that it's cohesive.
Yeah.
So I think the cohesive thing has been a part of you for a long time now.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Definitely.
And then removing a tattoo, which specific one would you remove?
I think I just remove all of the ones on my forearms because I have like 5 or 6 on my forearms. I think even if I were to just say like I'm going to remove all of them and then maybe in 10 years just start anew, I would be okay with that. But
So there's no priority. It's just
there's not really a priority. I would just blank slate, just wipe them all out. And because to be honest, I've spent more time tattooed than I was untattooed. So now there's a novelty to not being tattooed.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Ayla, what about you?
It's a good question. Well, I mean, I mentioned I do want to get a Saturn tattoo, but I definitely also want to get something reflective. So this is a tough one, actually. I've been wanting this for a while. It's just a basic butterfly tattoo, which I know everybody has one, but for me, there's a whole deeper meaning to it. So I'm trying to find a butterfly tattoo that's not lame. I'm not sure. I haven't been extremely inspired. I'll find something and then I wait a month and then I'm like, oh, I'm glad I didn't get that. So until I can figure out that one, I think the other thing I wanted to do was get like a butterfly and a bee, sort of like a Muhammad Ali sort of homage, too. So yeah, it's layered. I need to figure that one out a little bit more. And then if I was going to get one removed, I would get it removed only to put it back on in a different location. I have a bicep tattoo of a mountain, which looks like a mountain to me, but I'm often asked if it's a lizard. So obviously it doesn't look like what it was supposed to look like. And that's fine because I know what it is, but it's definitely they stretched my skin as they tattooed it. So it's not as tall as a mountain normally would be, which is kind of a bummer.
Mountain. I just spell it MEOWGAIN. Mountain.
Mountain, yeah.
Mountain, yeah. Nah. Okay.
I mean, it's fine. Like, it looks cool. I don't care. But
I think you talked about the float like a butterfly, sing like a bee thing in the past. The bars we've been to.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because again, just this leg injury rocked my life. Like, I definitely died and came back. And the morning it happened, I had this gorgeous dream with butterflies. So it also sort of, I don't know. I need to read Man's Search for Meaning at this point because I think, it's like I ascribed meaning to that dream and then the worst thing in my entire life happened right after that day. So it called into question, intuition, meaning, control, fate, chaos, like all of that stuff. And so I don't want to tattoo something that ingrains the chaos in me. I need to find something beyond it. And I think that's something I'm still striving for because I'm still healing. And I don't know I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's happening. I'm definitely going to get it. I don't know when, but it's happening.
Do you know what kind of butterfly you want? Like a monarch butterfly or something?
Yeah, I do. It's going to be a blue morpho inspired, but it won't be blue because my skin color wouldn't be as vibrant of a blue. So
yeah,
I was laughing too. Yeah,
there's always that problem. I'm like, all right, when you get color tattoos, like, I don't know, I'm kind of brown. I got to figure out what best would look.
Right, like there's some colors that look good, but like I'm really funny in the sense that like I'm one emoji skin color in the winter and a different emoji skin color in the summer. And with all my pool time, I'm looking very res these days. Nice. And that's cool with me. But nice. I wouldn't be wanting to rock a purple tattoo. It just wouldn't be the same purple that I want it to be.
Yeah, there's so many considerations. Like even if you like when you start to work out, you have to figure out what mass does my body need to be so the tattoo looks proper. You
Yeah,
can't look too stretched out. It can't look too skinny. You gotta do all that math.
it's true. I thought to myself, maybe if I just pump iron, my little mountain won't be so sad. I don't know. We'll see.
Hmm.
That was very good.
Yeah, it's gonna get real buff. But what about you, man? Would you remove any or add any? What do you got?
No, I'm not removing any. The next one I'm gonna get is a King of Hearts.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I have some scars from cutting. The cutting story is I mean, long. I guess I could tell it. But I had a friend that would cut, and I was talking to her, trying to get her out of it, and she's like, "You would never understand. You don't know what it's like." So in one of my depressive states, I decided to get the cutting thing. So I want to get a King of Hearts, which is the Suicide King, most notably known. So it's like a triumph, and I've also attempted suicide multiple times. Luckily, no, I don't know if I would say luckily, but
You're bad.
according
At
to the
it.
world, yeah, luckily I'm really bad at it. I'm just fucking awful at it. So
You're
I'm still
skilled at
here.
many things, and I'm glad you're poor at that one.
Yeah, I'm
so
skilled at many things. Suicide is not one of them.
Yeah. Pick
So-
another hobby.
Yeah,
No, I'm
right.
just kidding. I don't want to make it light. It's very serious, but no, I love that you're making this like transformative integrated tattoo. You know, like that makes sense. And I was going to bring it up earlier, the semicolon. A lot of
that's a
people that
common
had the
one.
semicolon tattoos. Yeah. And that's like, you know, when you see that, you recognize that in that person. And it's interesting that they want people to see that and like know they survived, you know, like that's kind of cool too.
Now
Yeah,
imagine if you went up to a Survivors Anonymous with a semicolon tattoo and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you too?" And you're like, "No, I just like grammar."
Hey man, I would be okay.
Yeah,
with that.
you'd be like,
I
get the
would be
F
okay
out.
with that.
Get the fuck out.
I would kick them out. I would be like, all right, I want you to write 100 semicolon
Yeah.
statements on the fucking board.
I'm gonna
Or you're
write the
just like-
semicolon into you with a knife. How about that? There you go.
No. You're like, go down the hall. The grammatarians are in room 1A. This is
Mhm.
1B.
Yeah. You're in the wrong class, kid. I'll see you later.
Right. Also,
Yeah.
no.
You know, I've thought about getting the semicolon. I had a friend who I would talk to about. She was a long time ago, and she was a barista at the Starbucks I used to study at, and she was the first one to tell me like, you should get a semicolon. I was like, well, like we went back and forth on it. So I may get it at the same time as I get the King of Hearts, but also too like from this very stoic perspective. This is gonna get a little dark, but from the very stoic perspective, suicide is also always an option. So to get the King of, like, I'm thinking about it getting like right here, like on the, like this part right here. So I always see it as the last card up my sleeve. That would be suicide. That'd be, should I ever find myself in a really bad situation where my body or my spirit should be tortured at a place that is not okay with me being tortured, then there's always the case where I could commit suicide.
Memento mori.
And I kind of like that dual, yeah. I kind of like the dual meaning between between being somebody that has overcome those urges to not overcome. I still think about it. I still have ideations, but being somebody that doesn't do it anymore, that tries to kill himself, and always having as a possibility. I think it's a nice little symbol. And then maybe the semicolon, because I get it, but it's so in vogue, and then so popular. I don't know if it like I like
Something as personal as taking
articulate.
your own shouldn't be as impersonal as a fad tattoo.
Yeah, I got that.
That's
Makes
fair.
sense. I appreciate that.
So
That's fair.
yeah,
But if you did want to do it, you could put it on the neck of your king on the card, and then it's creating this like
Oh, geez.
multiple
it's like a
layers.
Yeah.
meta
It's
tattoo.
meta. There it is. Yeah, I'm telling you.
Well, see, I was planning it on putting it on like right here, on like my hand, because I use this
Mhm.
hand most. This is my favorite hand for doing personal stuff. And when life spills on the hand, then
God.
I was gonna say,
You know what you
maybe
could
that's
do is
not
you
for
can
this
take-
hand. It's kind of a
You can
bummer.
take have the King of Hearts tattoo, right? And he's stabbing himself in the head. On his arm, you can have a little tattoo of you.
Ah, there you go. Now we're getting
It's like
and then
Yeah.
put a little semicolon tattoo on the
Oh,
on it.
meta
Yes.
cube.
Yes. There we go.
This is the
All
plan.
right. Yeah, except I'm out.
Now hurry up and do
I'm
it
all
before
done.
some listener
I'm all
does it,
done
and
with
you're like,
tattoos.
what the hell?
Yeah.
Cool.
No shit.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you. That was a fun conversation about tattoos. Who would have thought, right? That's
Yeah.
what we do here at Exofathom.
We make things
Um,
fun.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks,
Right.
Mike, and thanks to Ayla, and thanks to all of you out there watching. We really
And thanks to you,
appreciate it.
Nick.
Oh yeah, no problem, no problem. Yeah, thanks, guys. We really appreciate it. We're here every Friday night at 8 p.m. So check us out. Please give us a thumbs up on our YouTube page. It would really help us out trying to grow that audience. Can't do it without you guys. If you want to check out what we do on other podcasts, you can check this page here out. Has all of the podcasts that we do each and every day of the week and where to find them. Please go check them out if you feel like supporting it. It would really mean a lot to us. Otherwise, I'm going to say goodnight now, and I think we're going to say goodnight. So until next time, Cognonauts, stay out there, and we'll catch you on the next Exofathom. Good night.
Peace.
Tattoodles.
Oh, that was good.
Oh, God.